All right. First of all, thank you very much for joining this webinar session today, right? And this is basically based on multiple, feedback where we had certain sessions planned during in the month of July, August, where we had the proper map sessions, right? And post that we received feedback from merchants like, hey, can we have some insights around how to go globally, right? And apart from that, I have also seen few of the merchants writing email to us about like, hey, we would like to have such sessions. So taking inspirations from that and also seeing the growing behavior of Indian D2C segments going to the outside world, right? So we thought like this would be the right time to have such a session so that we could enable you guys better in your successful business abroad, right? So let me share my screen with a very quick presentation. I'm going to take less than 5 minutes and then I will hand it over to the actual presenters for the session. So just bear with me for 5 minutes. All right, so this is in continuation to our map program that we have already had. So you guys are part of the elite group where we are continuously having this kind of a strategic discussion and certain housekeeping, the same housekeeping slide that I've just copy pasted. So all the presentations and slides will be shared with you guys over the email after the presentation. So do not worry about taking notes or anything that you want to do. And of course, there is going to be 4 sessions and each sessions will have its dedicated Q&A. So you can feel free to ask any questions during the Q&A. Just unmute yourself and ask for the questions. And during the time of presentation, if you have still any questions that you wanted to note it down, you can put it in the chat box. We'll be happy to answer them, right? And if there are any queries further after this session, as always, please drop an email to map2022@shopify.com. And this is pretty much the agenda. It's going to be broadly me starting off with why we are having this webinar, right? And I'll set the objectives, and then there's going to be 4 sessions followed, each roughly around 15 minutes. So one of the key pillars of growth, and Anshuk will keep, Anshuk, I'm sure he is a little angry at me because every time I save his presentation for the last, but I also see him as the superstar of the presenters, right? So over to you, Anshuk, to take people through the marketing gimmicks or tips, whatever that we could call, to be successful in the international markets.
Thank you so much, Jagan. So happy to be part of this cross-border webinar. I think more and more merchants I talk to, and the common trend I have heard them speak is that cross-border is going to be big in the next 3 years. So super happy and I think it's just the right time to be talking about cross-border. Plus, we're also in the November and December year-end period where we have seen that the US sales usually accelerate. So just the right time.
Yes, Anshuk. Next week is the Black Friday, Cyber Monday week.
Yes.
So people are gearing up for that.
Absolutely. So for everyone present here, my name is Anshuk. I'm one of the co-founders of Adyogi. We are a marketing platform. We work primarily with direct-to-consumer brands to help them scale across Meta and Google ecosystem. So over the last 6-7 years, I've worked with 300 plus brands. I've personally interacted with many founders. And today I'll share with you some of the key insights we have learned when we have worked with brands in taking them cross-border. So just moving on, this is going to be a very nutshell, the takeaways from today. I'll talk about 1 or 2 case studies of brands who have scaled very effectively cross-border. A few things about which any brand needs to consider when they're starting international marketing, a bunch of best practices across Meta and Google, and towards the end, some sort of a campaign structure just in case if you're already running cross-border campaigns or you're planning to start those, then this recommended structure could be beneficial. So this is, I'll speak about Trendia as a brand. This is a brand which is in women ethnic space, scaled very rapidly in the US geography. In fact, as we speak, around 60 to 70% of their revenue comes from US, primarily using Meta and Google ads. And what we learned today is some of the best practices they have used. These are some of the key pointers. They've been able to scale very rapidly in a 6-month period. Categories like apparel, jewelry, cosmetics have scaled well for them. Geographies, US, UK, and Australia have been the bigger geographies. And they're also seeing their CTR increase month on month over a period of 6 to 12 months. So question is, what are those targeting options, campaign strategies which brands can adopt if they are selling cross-border? A few more examples of brands which have done well cross-border. These are brands like Malmal, Koski, Trendia, Art Carrot, Amar Chitrakatha. I know many of them look in the apparel space and more ethnic apparel space, but we have seen brands across categories do well in the US and the North American region. So just I think this is one slide which is I think an important slide to understand. These are all the FAQs I typically come across when I talk to a lot of founders who are trying to do cross-border. So some important things to keep in mind. Number one is from a setup perspective, and I'm talking from a marketing setup perspective. Generally, it's recommended to have separate ad account for your cross-border campaigns. Of course, if you're just starting, it might still be okay to run in the same campaign. But the moment you want to scale your cross-border campaigns, better to have a different ad account across both Facebook and Google. It's better to have a currency as US time zone because it will help you analyze your campaigns much better. Again, catalog needs to be in US dollars if you're talking about the North American region. And we also recommend that if you have a separate website for your cross-border, then it's better to have a different pixel. Usually, it's also a recommendation from the Meta team that separate website means separate pixel. The benefit that comes with a different pixel is your lookalike audiences will be much better if you have two different pixels versus if you use the same pixel across the India and the cross-border website. On the website, I know Saurav spoke about a lot of things, a few of them which are relevant from a marketing perspective. So if you're using the same website, of course, you will need a currency converter to be enabled. If you're using a different website, chances are your pricing in the US and the India will be different. I'll speak more about it in my subsequent slides. But it's very important that you implement an auto redirection, which means if people in the US are coming to your India website, you may want to redirect them to the US website, and vice versa. If visitors in India are coming to your US website, you may want to redirect them to the India website. Shipping, delivery, return policies are very important to be mentioned because Google Merchant Center and even Meta has these policies that if you don't have return policy on the website, chances are your Merchant Center or ad account might get disapproved. So make sure you have all the policies up on the cross-border website as well. From a marketing perspective, what I've seen is super important again is have a budget which is allocated to your cross-border campaigns. We have seen a lot of times where brands might say, okay, let's start international. Maybe we'll try with the first 1 lakh of spends. And if we get ROAS, we'll scale further. The problem with that strategy is becomes very tough to get good, reliable sales in your first 1 lakh of budget. So usually what we recommend brands is have a budget for, let's say, roughly a 3-month period. What we recommend generally is like a minimum budget of $5,000 per month, which comes to roughly about 3 to 4 lakhs per month. But have that budget set aside for your cross-border campaigns because chances are your first month, your performance may not break even. You may not see a very good ROS because you're just starting up. But if you have that 3-month horizon in mind, there's a good likelihood you might start seeing some good results by the second and the third month. Another point there is very important that you don't rely only on Facebook and Google ads. Sometimes we have seen that brands, when they go international, they would switch on the Facebook and Google ads and expect that just the ads portion will scale their business. We have usually seen that Facebook and Google ads are multiplier, but you may still need some more organic push in the market. So you may need to sign up with some local influencers. You may need to be present in one of the local marketplaces or figure out what is the other way outside Facebook, Google, so that you can drive some organic traffic. And lastly, I think a common question which we get asked is, which geography should we go with? Is it the Middle East? Is it the Southeast Asia? Is it the North American markets? Again, the answer depends from brand to brand. But my experience has been that if you see in your Google Analytics that there is some share of traffic coming outside India, and let's say North America is the second biggest market outside India, then maybe the answer is North America could be your next big bet. So just analyze your current data and you may get some lead indicators on what geographies already started to get you some traction. And that could be your next big foray in the cross-border. So that's a bit on the things to consider when starting international. Now I'll talk about a few strategies which have worked for different brands we work with. Number one is what we have seen is pricing in US. And when I talk about US is not necessarily US. Take that as an example of a cross border. The same could be applicable for your Middle East as well. But pricing in a geography like US and India generally cannot be the same as what we have seen. Now, I know that you might think that Indian pricing plus the shipping charges could be your pricing in the US, but what we are missing out here is the acquisition cost in India and the acquisition cost in US are very, very different. So, on an average, we have seen that CPM rates in the US are 3 to 4 times of India, which means if India, your acquisition cost is 800 INR, which is roughly about $10 today, in US, the chances are your acquisition cost could be as high as $30 to $40. So you need to factor in that incremental acquisition cost in the US when you are deciding the pricing. And we have seen brands do that very effectively. Sometimes, like say, for example, we see this example of Koski, a product which is priced at 4,000 in INR in India is priced at $75 outside India. So we see that very often that the pricing in India and pricing in US is usually very different for brands. And that's just the way it works, purely because, like I said, the incremental acquisition cost is quite high in the US. So when you're starting a new geography, I think the first question could be what part of your catalog you want to launch. And second is how do you want to price the catalog given the incremental shipping and the marketing cost. Second, what we have seen is in India, I know a lot of us we in the DTC world have seen that people are over-indexed on Meta as a platform. We see across most of the brands we work with 70 to 80% budgets going on Meta, which includes both Facebook and Instagram. But our experience in the US is Google is a much stronger platform in the US. We see Performance Max actually work very, very well in the US. So when you're starting international, a good rule of thumb could be that put 50% of your budget across Meta and 50% of your budget across Google. Of course, on Google, majority can go to your Performance Max campaigns because we have seen that Performance Max works very well on the Google ecosystem. You can also put some budget on your Discovery and YouTube campaigns. For brands which are targeting, let's say, ethnic wear, or targeting Indian diaspora in the US, generally we have seen that there are some very good targeting options on Meta, which can help you target specifically Indian diaspora. 2, 3 examples there. One, you can do language targeting. So like if you see on the screenshot, there is something called Bengali, Hindi, Tamil sort of a targeting which can be done. It helps us target the Indian population in the US. And again, same as applicable for UK, Canada, Australia, Middle East also. In terms of interest, there are interests could be Indian brands, like for example, Fab India or W for Women could be an interest on Facebook, which you can target. Celebrities and even, let's say, designers like Manish Malhotra, Sabyasachi could be interest groups or are interest groups on Meta platform. So think about some of these brands, designers, behaviors, and celebrities, and you will be able to filter out the Indian diaspora in the US. Of course, assuming that you are selling ethnic and targeting the Indian population. Of course, if you're targeting the Native Americans, then most of the other targeting options on Meta would also work quite well. Specifically, if you're going for North American countries, then our recommendation is try to run one single campaign across US, UK, Canada, Australia. You can also try running separate campaigns in each geography, but our experience has been that generally the CPM rates shoot up the moment you run, let's say, a separate campaign in Australia, a geography like Australia, because one, it's expensive in terms of CPM rates. Second, also the target population size is quite small there. So we have seen good results coming from a single campaign run across all the 4 North American countries. I've also seen that usually what works well in the US also can be translated across UK, Canada, Australia. The assumption here is you have all the shipping set up in these 3 countries as well. Now, specifically for Meta as a platform, we have seen that catalog linked ads actually work very well in the US. In India, you may be running catalog ads. You may also be running your custom ads or newsfeed ads or video ads, which is great. But in the US, we have seen that the catalog linked ads feature of Meta works very well. This is also called as dynamic ads for broad audience, or DABA as Facebook usually refers to. This is basically catalog ads for your prospect campaigns. I'm sure most of you would already be running catalog ads for your remarketing campaigns, but catalog ads for prospecting also works very well in the US. The reason it works very well is we have seen comparatively lower CPM rates in the US when you run a DABA campaign. Plus, you can also add your frame overlays. You can also, let's say, add some nice price overlays and discount overlays. So we have seen good results coming from your catalog sales prospect campaigns. Now, this is again one difference between your Indian and the cross-border campaigns. In India, we honestly haven't seen great results coming from the traffic campaign. We have run traffic campaign across multiple brands over the last 6-7 years. Usually our experience has been the traffic campaign does get a lot of traffic, but the average session duration on the Google Analytics is not very high. Plus, we also see that when we remarket the traffic from traffic campaign, usually it's very tough to get conversions. Part of the reason is also because in India, the target customer base is 200 million people, in fact, 300 million people on Meta today. And traffic campaign tends to get a lot of junk traffic on the website. This is not true in the US. We've actually seen great results come from your traffic campaign or view content campaigns in the US. So one of the recommendations is also when you're starting in the US, it might be a good idea to start with traffic and view content campaigns, purely because you will be able to get a lot of clicks by this route. If we run only conversion campaigns, the CPMs and CTRs, CPMs and CPCs are so high that you may end up driving one session at, let's say, $1 cost. And that becomes super expensive. Imagine you're spending $100 a day, you will practically get only 100 sessions on the website. So good idea is start with traffic, view content, maybe 30-40% budget, and gradually you can ramp it down to maybe a 10-20% budget over a period of time. On the iOS impact is actually quite big in the US because the share of iOS is quite high. A good fix we have seen there is conversions API. So Facebook has this technology where you can send data from the website backend directly to Facebook servers, Facebook and Instagram. In India, conversions API is definitely important, but it is even more critical in the US geography. It's fairly straightforward to do as a Shopify merchant because Shopify has direct integration on conversions API, but make sure you enable this on the US website. A few things on Google. So Merchant Center promotions work very well. Like I said in the beginning, the Performance Max campaigns are the core of Google in the US geography. So do run the PMax campaigns, but add Merchant Center promotions. Now, what is Merchant Center promotion? As you can see on the screen, you can see the small free shipping. That's a part of the Merchant Center promotion. You can also see something like special offer or 15% off as part of your Merchant Center promotions. We have usually seen that the click rates are much higher when Merchant Center promotions are applied. Another key difference between US and India rather is there's a lot of income data which Google has in the US geography. And we have seen that income targeting on Google Display works quite well. In India, I'm sure you would have realized that Google Display is very difficult to make it work. Plus, the kind of signals and data which Google Display has in India is not that great. In the US, we have seen that they do income targeting. So you can target top 10% of income bracket. You can target 11 to 20%, 21 to 30%. And we have seen these buckets work quite well when we are running display campaigns in the US. They work quite well. Sale, I know sale works in every geography, but we have seen that when it comes to the US, discounting has a much bigger impact. We have seen brands which have rolled out 10%, 20% coupon codes and significant increase in the sales just during those sale period. So do make the most of the sale, and sale need not just be Black Friday, Cyber Monday, Christmas. If you are selling the Indian diaspora, then sale could also be Diwali, Holi, Rakhi. What we see is Malmal as a brand, they did a Rakhi sale in the US, and they did exceptionally well during the Rakhi season. So a lot of Indian festivals could also be sale events in the US. One catch there is it has to be done ahead of time because people need some time for the shipping and the delivery to happen. So we recommend at least a month in advance for any sale event in the US. Best sellers can be pushed. Separate section, sales section can be made on the website. Coupon codes, contextual can be picked. For example, Diwali 10 or BFCM 10, 20. That usually works quite well. But sale and discounting as a strategy works much better in the US geography, what we have seen compared to India. The last slide for today is when it comes to US, Meta and Google are not the only two platforms. Interestingly, TikTok is actually very big in the US. So do make the most of TikTok as well. Maybe if you're just starting your campaigns, you might be spreading yourselves too thin by starting on Meta, Google, and TikTok, all three. I understand it's a fairly involved task, but let's say you set up with Meta and Google, and over a period of time you want to scale up, then TikTok might be a very good platform. There are some nice targetings on TikTok, like hashtag targeting. What you see on the screen is something like a hashtag Indian food could also be a targeting on TikTok. So these are very innovative ways of reaching out to the Indian diaspora in the region. So that's a sort of a wrap up for today. This is just one last slide about how do you structure your campaigns. Sort of a recommended structure. What we have seen works very well. So on the prospect, as you can see, catalog sales campaign with all your products could be the first one. Traffic campaign, like I spoke about, view content campaign, and one catalog sale campaign for your top category. On remarketing, the standard remarketing campaigns, what you run in India can also be applicable in the US. And on Google, Performance Max is what we recommend. Discovery can also be run for one or two top categories. And TikTok, again, can be run for one or two top categories. So focus a lot on top categories or hero products across Meta, Google, and TikTok. And usually we have seen that works quite well. So that's a sort of a wrap from my side. Over to you, Jagan, and for any questions.
Thank you very much, Anshuk. Super helpful, and lot of stats and data that is very helpful for us. I'm sure like merchants would have been very found it very helpful as well. Now the Q&A session. Any questions to Anshuk?
Anshuk, hi. Hi, this is Yasin from Gramia Oils.
Hi, Yasin.
So we are in the oils and fats segment, right? So and we are trying to launch in USA for the NRA diaspora, basically, right? And do you think TikTok works well even for NRA diaspora? And also, half our audience are over 35, 40 years old. Should we still look at TikTok for USA?
Yes. So see, TikTok, when it comes to for Indian diaspora, it does work well. We have tried some of the ethnic brands on TikTok; they do very well. But the demographic age is important because we have seen that in the US, TikTok is big, but still between the 20 to 30 age group. So if you feel a big share of the target customer base is, let's say, 35, 40, then TikTok need not be the primary platform to start with. You can probably still run a pilot or two in TikTok to see the response.
Got it. Also, one more, follow-up question. So we have a decent modern retail presence in US. So what would be like the best way to make sure that the people who've been buying on the supermarkets find the website or the ads somehow? Do I do pin codes on these supermarkets and run ads, or what do I do there?
That's a good question. What we haven't seen great success when it comes to hyperlocal or pin code based campaigns. The problem which comes, Yasin, there is the moment you run a hyperlocal or pin code based campaign, your CPM actually shoots up. So it's sort of, even if you have a higher conversion in the vicinity of where you have a modern retail presence, just the higher CPM will more than subset the higher conversion rate. So the net ROS is actually almost same or lower.
Understood. Cool. Do you think this advice stands good for India also, Anshuk? Because in India also we do hyperlocal. We are present only in the metros because it's a heavy object, right? We do hyperlocal deliveries only. So do you think for India also I would do something like this? Sorry, out of context question, but we do only in the 5 cities ads. Do you think that is also expensive way to look into it?
We have seen in India as well, the moment we filter out the cities, let's say we do only like a Bombay Delhi campaign, we've usually seen that the CPM rate shoots up. So what we typically recommend is, unless of course the delivery is not there in rest of the India, in which case you are forced to run it in top 2, top 5 cities. If the delivery happens in entire India, then we recommend generally either a top 50 city campaign or an all India campaign.
Understood,
Uh,
understood.
Within
Got it.
cities, Yasin, just a point to add, hyperlocal is not recommended at all. So if you're doing South Bombay, then that's not a great idea.
Yeah, that sure, sure, sure. Thanks, Anshul. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Yasin.
Anyone else would go like to go next? Oh, I think Anshuk has made it super detailed, right? Of course, definitely I found it very useful, Anshuk. So I'm sure.
Maybe it's the last session, right? It's very tough to
No,
get the.
you see, like there are like I think the active ones are still there. I don't see many dropouts at all since the start of the session 2 hours ago. I think pretty much people are there.
Jagan, I just needed, I know I overshot my time, but there's something because I've seen both Saurav getting this question and even to some point, even Richa got this question of how essentially, that paying native feature, essentially, how do they display the local currency, right, at the time of checkout. So that's a feature that Razorpay has built. I just wanted the larger audience to take them through. Is it I mean, can I do that? I mean, I'm just asking for permission.
Sure, Satyam. But just give us 1 or 2 minutes. We'll just wait for
Sure,
any
sure, sure.
questions, and then we can open it up for the entire set of audience. Okay, guys, maybe last 30 seconds. Any specific questions to Anshuk on marketing tips? Anything? Cool. If not, okay, Chaitanya. Over to you,
Sorry,
Chaitanya.
sorry. Hi, Anshuk. So,
Hi,
Anshuk, thank
Chaitanya.
you very much. So, we already sell in US, the North American region, EU, Australia. So, it's all been organic. So, every single sale has been organic. Uh, so, to date, we have spent zero, like literally zero, right? TikTok, we have presence, but it's all again organic now. The social media team of Mr. Beast has reached out to us. So we have made something for that guy, and we have already shipped it. So this Friday is when he's supposed to unbox stuff live. So
Wow.
hopefully, out of all the tens of thousands of souvenirs that he's gonna get, he's probably gonna open it. Fingers crossed. But does it make sense for us to run ads like starting today till 31st of December and see any results at all, or uh, might as well just target next year?
Right. And see, if the focus is only November, December, let's say if we say that December 31st is till when we want to focus on paid ads, then my suggestion would be that we might actually be pressed against time, because even if you decide to start today, by the time the campaigns go live, it will be probably another week or 10 days. And the learning gets over, it will be December, and it might be too close to the December and Christmas time. So if it's only about November, December, then I feel it might be late. But if you feel you may want to continue it to next year also, maybe Jan, Feb, March, and slowly keep the momentum going before we accelerate during the festive next year, then it might be definitely recommend starting.
Okay. Okay. Perfect. Makes sense. Thank you very much.
All
Thanks,
right.
Chaitanya.
Thank you, Chaitanya. Okay.
Thanks.